section of 8. If you remember, Psalm 119 is divided into verses that are sections that are 8 verses long. So if you're interested and you haven't been doing it, you can start at chapter or verse 41 and 42, and we'll do that in the coming weeks. So let me, by the way, Lindsay was telling me, that look familiar? She was at Monterey Bay Aquarium yesterday, and they had the largest humpback whale right outside the aquarium, and they were actually able to see it. So what I was talking about in the sermon was those right there. That is what a designer looked at and said, why are those like that? Maybe it has something to do with the fin and how it functions so well. So they replicated it, and sure enough, it did. And so you can see this is a new type of blade that they're putting on those wind turbines, which will increase its productivity by 20 to 30%. So I just wanted to put that up. But it is a way, and you think about it, how would this ever come about without a designer? It blows the imagination to think that you could possibly think that an animal could have something that we have to go into an engineer to design and everything else to replicate what actually takes place with the humpback whale. So as we look today at, some reason, there we go, the various fish that occupy, or living creatures that occupy, again, we see the diversity. We certainly, a lot of different types of foods, lobster. Some of you don't, how many don't like lobster? Huh? You don't like, okay, none of the Shipley kids like lobster, okay. Shipley parents do, so, which is probably good because it's too expensive anyway. Squid, octopus, how many of you like octopus? Huh? Fried octopus? Huh? Oh, yeah. Calamari, there you go. How about eel? Is that good, Kevin? Kevin likes eel, really. Do you get the electric eel served to you? It's not electric at the time. Again, just showing some pictures of, we tend to not think of the diversity in all of this. Now, this is some older photos of depictions of what the Leviathan would potentially look like as we find it throughout the scriptures. And I got a short video of a guy who reviews that if you'd want to. Are we on for sound back there, guys? Maybe? Yeah, we just didn't have the words back there, so we just got started. Oh, he came and said, Dave's got him. And then you weren't. I told him what folder. Oh, okay. Well, they're not up, so. Okay, you guys ready? 1 minute. Okay. Now, the Leviathan is an interesting one. It appears several times in the scriptures, but it is consistent with what we are finding, and I'm going to show some pictures of what we're finding in the fossil records, and maybe show this video. Are we good, guys? Yes, I got thumbs up. Here we go. Maybe.
Isaiah 27:1 speaks of a dragon that lives in the sea named Leviathan. Now in Job 41, we find a bit more detail. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with an hook? None is so fierce that dare stir him up. His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. However, with this last statement, some immediately dismiss the account. They say, that's fantasy. A fire-breathing dragon is only a fairy tale. But is the Bible just a collection of myths? There's nothing close to this animal alive today, so does the Bible know best? Well, let's look at another incredible creature. This one is not extinct, the bombardier beetle. It has 3 chambers inside its abdomen. 2 of the chambers contain chemical compounds. When the beetle is threatened, it releases these into a 3rd chamber and it mixes with a catalyst, causing a chemical reaction to take place and a scalding spray to eject towards the attacker. Interesting to note that the beetle wouldn't have benefited at all from having just the compounds without the ejector system, nor would it have functioned should the catalyst have been missing. In fact, you'd have just had a defenseless beetle. But all of the components are there in the correct order. 2 compounds, a catalyst, separating chambers, a firing mechanism, and a directing nozzle. With a similar design, Leviathan may have only needed one additional component, an igniter system as flammable chemicals were expelled, and a fire-breathing dragon is not at all beyond the realm of possibility. I'm David Reeves. Truly, the heavens declare the glory of God.
All right, so one of the things that we find in virtually every culture that used the sea to some degree is legends of sea monsters. You'll find them in drawings. You'll find it in stuff that's been passed on verbally. Certainly, many sailors talk about seeing things in the ocean. And as I mentioned, the sea, anybody's paying attention, how much of the ocean have we actually explored? What percentage? 5%. That means 95% of the ocean we have not yet plunged its depths to see what exactly is down there. And certainly, probably the biggest area is very, very deep. All right, now, what we have found are fossil remnants of animals like this one. In fact, I think, trying to remember the year, there was a carcass that washed ashore in, I think it was Japan, and they could not identify it, but most believed that it was this animal right here. Thank you, 1979. Which one? A what shark? A basking shark. That's a different one. That's a different one. There was actually another one. Yeah, this one had actually a long neck, and they first couldn't define it, but then they believed it was this one here. Or this one here. Then you have this one. Or this one. Now, these are all fossil records that have been recovered. So when we read about what we read in Genesis today, and we read about great sea monsters, this really should not surprise us that we are finding these fossils all over the world. Now, what is that, kids? Isn't that just a magnificent creature that God has created? Now, how many of you kids have flown in airplanes? Raise your hand if you've flown in an airplane. Okay. Well, here's what you get to do today. You get to fly with an eagle. Okay? So we're going to fly with an eagle. Here's what you can feel like, what it's like to fly like an eagle. So here we go. Volume. I wish they left the GoPro on just a little bit longer there to watch that thing land. And now, so look at this contrast. And when I talk in the sermon about diversity within creation, here you got this majestic bald eagle and a flight like that. And then you have this, and you think, wow, what a difference. But then Look at the difference in the flight of these two different creatures. Both are winged creatures, both fly, but God builds in a completely different type of versatility. Maybe. Here we go. All right, so here is a bird that can move backwards, sideways, forwards, with virtually no an up and down, okay? Virtually just by making slight changes to its wing beating and its body. It's an amazing, and you look at that and you go, how is that possible that they can do this? How would this, now think about this, because here's what evolutionary theory wants us to believe, that the eagle and this hummingbird all descended from the same creature. And yet look at the differences between the two of them. Now, plus you have stuff like this, okay? Talk about difference in types of birds. Flamingo. Pink flamingos. And then you got owls, but you don't just get one. Again, when we look at God's creation, this is one of the things that hopefully you reflect upon, is look at the diversity even within this particular creature. All are owls, but look at the difference in them. They have similarities, and yet they have uniqueness and diversity. And I believe God has done this for a reason. God is a God who loves this diversity within His creation. Now, I want to take a few minutes and look at this creature. Now, how many of, the hummingbird is an amazing creature to study. How many of you have actually watched the Creatures That Defy Evolution series? Anybody? Few people? Some of you? Very good. There is one on the show about the hummingbird, and I want to show this one. His premise, by the way, the person you're going to hear talking is a doctor who was at best an agnostic, most likely an atheist. He was an evolutionist. He was a teacher. His students in his class challenged his belief system, his presuppositions on teeth development in fish, and that led him on a journey to start examining the creatures in creation to see whether or not they supported a design or evolution. And one of the ones that he looked at was the hummingbird. So it's a 3-minute video or something like that. So I wanted to play that for us. Here we go.
The woodpecker is a very special little bird. The beak of a woodpecker is like industrial strength. It is stronger than other birds' beaks. He has special feet. Most birds have 3 toes out the front, 1 toe out the back. Woodpecker has 2 toes out the front, 2 toes out the back, and that's so he can climb around on a tree trunk, a vertical tree trunk, right side up, upside down, sideways. He can crawl any way he wants to. He has special tail feathers. His tail feathers are different than other birds' tail feathers. They're more resilient, they're spongy, and they're very strong and tough, because he tripods himself with his 2 feet and his tail feathers so that he grabs a hold of that tree, fans out his tail feathers, and then bangs his head into the tree. Now, you would think that a woodpecker would go home every night and say to Mrs. Woodpecker, "Oh, I got this headache. I was banging my head on a tree all day." But he doesn't. Why? Well, because God made him with special equipment. For instance, between his beak and his skull, there's a piece of cartilage. It acts as a shock absorber. His skull is the thickest bone per body weight of any creature. As a matter of fact, brain surgeons study the brains of woodpeckers, how they're hooked in there and everything, to help them with like trauma people in accidents, that they need to put their brains back in there. And so they study woodpeckers. The woodpecker, with his strong skull and his shock absorber and his strong beak and his tail feathers and his feet, he's all ready to go, except for one thing. Once he drills his hole, he's got to get that bug out of the tree, because that's lunch. All right, well, how's he going to do that? Well, most birds, their tongue goes right to the tip of the beak. A woodpecker's tongue goes as much as 10 inches out of his beak. Now why? Well, because he's going to drill the hole, find the bug tunnel down in the tree, stick his tongue down in the tunnel, and drag the bug out. Now you would have to say, could I stick my tongue down a hole in a tree and drag a bug out? Of course not. Well, how does the woodpecker do that? Well, God made the woodpecker with little barbs on the tip of his tongue, and he will literally stab that bug larva down in there because it doesn't want to come out. But in case that's not enough, he has a little glue factory in his tongue that manufactures precisely the right glue to stick to the bug, but it doesn't stick to his beak. And so he pulls that bug into his mouth. Now we have a problem, if evolution is true. Let's say over hundreds of thousands of years, this woodpecker got all this equipment, and then he glues his tongue to a bug and he swallows the bug. What just happened to his tongue? He just swallowed his tongue. He dies, he just strangled himself, okay? But he doesn't. Why? Well, because as he brings the bug into his mouth, he has another little factory that manufactures the solvent to dissolve the glue. So he dissolves the glue, loosens up the bug, swallows the bug. God made him that way. Woodpeckers, when they peck, they open their eyes between each peck, and they aim their beak, they focus, they aim their beak, they close their eyes, and then they hit the tree. So you hear a woodpecker out there, he's going, drr, drr. Every time you hear that, drr, in between each peck, he opens his eyes, focuses, aims his beak, hits the tree. Why? Well, they used to think it was just to keep the wood chips out. But now the scientists have measured the force of the impact of the woodpecker's head against the tree, and the force is so great that if he did not close his eyes, he would pop his eyeballs out. So I would say, have you ever seen a blind woodpecker? No, they never miss. They never miss, okay? Now, one special woodpecker, the European green woodpecker. I think he's unique in all the animal kingdom. I don't know for sure, but I think he might be. His tongue is different than any other tongue, as far as I know. Our tongue starts in the back of our throat, comes up and out the front. His tongue starts in the back of his throat, goes down the throat, comes out the back of his neck, up over the top of his head. It's under the skin, comes out a little hole between his eyes, goes in one of his nostrils, and then comes out of his beak. And you would have to say, now how does that evolve? I've asked evolutionists that question. I've said, now you tell me, how and where did that tongue come from? They don't have a clue. They can't tell me. I'm saying, well, you're telling me that this bird evolved from some other creature, but there's no other creature that we know of with a tongue like that. How did that happen? They don't have any idea. I think there are very bright people who study science and do a good job of it, but all of a sudden they get to a point where they have to decide, did this thing happen over long periods of time somehow? Or, boy, it sure looks like it could have happened just bang, just like it is. And then, if they discover, hey, I have no way of describing this thing in terms of evolutionary science, they're faced with the other option, which is maybe a designer and a creator, and they say, I don't want to go that way, okay? So they suppress that evidence. And so many of the things that I studied, we had to search just to find information on them because they are not in the textbooks. They just don't put them in because they have no way to explain it. And so they just ignore it.
And the flight at Kitty Hawk. These objects right here, does anybody know what those are called? Let's see if we have any good science people. Darren, do you have the technical term? Alula, there we go. What are those for? A lulawing. There we go, that's good, Chris. Okay, here is something. Air flight. What is it that happens when wings interact with air? What do you get? Lift. What else do you get? Resistance. What else do you get? Turbulence. And were turbulence the most damaging to aircraft? When they were doing what? Anybody know? When they were getting ready to land. In fact, they would actually snap off wings because the turbulence was so bad. So scientists, as they're trying to figure out how to deal with this problem, went to this and said, what are those and why are they there? They didn't know. They're like, maybe this will make the difference. Any pilots here? You wanted to be a pilot, right? One of you guys, weren't you going to be a pilot? Micah, or was it Nathan? You thought about it. Okay, well, that doesn't count. Okay. What they did, you see the top picture? That is turbulence where there's no slot for the airplane to deflect the air as it comes over the wing. And so what you will see, hold on, back up for a second. So what you will see in aircraft is this slot, and it'll particularly be deployed as the plane is coming in for the landing, okay? They didn't understand why this would work, but when they did it, it worked. And where did they get the idea? From creation. And by the way, you won't see these typically on a bird. See here for a second. When they're not coming in for a landing, typically it's smooth. But at the point in time that they're ready to come in for a landing, all of a sudden, boop, these things come out. And it helps for them in their process of landing. So an amazing aspect of creation. Now, I had mentioned, and we got to go quickly here, I mentioned the chicken egg and the development of it, but I ran across this. I thought it was really a good video, particularly young people. Pay attention. This is so interesting about how God orchestrates this whole process. That's what happens every time a baby chick is born. How do you look at that and not see design? And everything has to take place through that whole process for that chick to be born alive. Now, the evolutionists are going to want you to believe this. That's where chickens came from, dinosaurs. Okay, they started out as theropods, and then they were running and jumping, and they developed. Can you believe that they actually want us to believe this? That's what's so and these are smart people. Okay? Here's the problem. Bird wings. Flight requires fully formed interlocking feathers. Has to have flight muscles and a keeled sternum to anchor the muscles. How did the dinosaurs acquire feathers? They don't have an answer for this, by the way. Birds' bones, delicate, hollow, light. Dinosaur bones, solid. How do you go from a solid bone to a hollow bone? Because that's what would have to happen for this to take place. Bird blood. Birds are warm-blooded with exceptionally high metabolism and food demands. Dinosaurs' metabolism isn't questioned, but most believe that they were cold-blooded reptiles and had a lethargic lifestyle. Again, what causes this change to take place? Bird lungs are unique. They go in one direction. It's not like our lungs. The air flows continually in one direction. Dinosaurs are more like mammals' lungs, and that's how they breathe. Again, you'd have to have a complete change in their body in order for them to evolve from a reptile or a dinosaur into a bird. Okay, any questions? And while I'm doing that, Colton, you want to get your people ready to do the song? Any questions, comments, suggestions for resources? Again, this is a very cursory look at birds and fish. You could spend a lot more time on it, but hopefully it whets your appetite, hopefully it encourages you. I do encourage you to go to the Monterey Bay Aquarium and look at what they have there and watch for the evolutionary signs that you will find all over the Monterey Bay Aquarium and what they are trying to indoctrinate people into believing. This is why I say we need a Christian one, someone to build one and have one that can declare the glory of God in creation. So, all right, Colton and guests and assistants and whoever else is going, take it away.
Check. I'm on up here, so I don't know if you need to unmute me. Anyways, we're going to learn a new song. Dave emailed me a couple weeks ago. He's like, hey, hello. There we go. I want you to teach the congregation this song. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's do it. This is a new rendition of an old song. It's Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. I was kind of surprised, honestly, when Dave showed, he's like, I'll email you the song. I listened to it. I was like, this is like what hipster churches play. But it's a really good song, and it's really beautiful. It's super simple. And so he said, there's no guarantee we'll play it during worship service, but we'll go ahead and learn it and see how it goes. So I'm going to teach you the melodies, and then we'll go from there. So we'll teach you the melody of the verse, and we'll teach you the melody of the chorus. We'll put them together, and we'll go through the song. All right? So I guess I would advise you, don't let the old song kind of like get mixed in with your head. You'll start singing the wrong song, and then you'll feel weird when everybody is singing a different song. So it goes like this. What a fellowship, what a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arms. What a blessedness, what a peace is mine, leaning on the everlasting arms. So each verse is like that. It says da 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 da, na da 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 da, la da 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 da. So it's really simple. So let's try. We'll sing it together. 1, 2, 1, 2. What a fellowship, what a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arms. What a blessedness. What a blessedness, what a peace is mine, leaning on the everlasting arms. Beautiful. All right, so the chorus is also very, very simple. And it goes like this. I'm leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. I'm leaning, leaning on the everlasting arms. So it gets kind of higher at the end. See, this is what always happens. You do like technical sound checks. You're like, everything's great. And when you actually go to play, everything is like, it all changed. I don't know what happened. Anyways, we'll keep going and let them figure that out. So anyways, each chorus is like this. It's really simple. And so we'll try singing it together and see how it goes. 1, 2. I'm leaning, leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. I'm leaning, leaning, leaning on the everlasting arms. Beautiful. How do we feel? It's pretty simple, pretty easy, but I'm going to make it really crazy and complex. And it's funny, earlier we were practicing this song, and Chris came in, and he's like, there's percussion? We're not Pentecostals up here. It's like, no, we're Presbycostals. It's different. I'm just kidding. No, we're not going to be swinging off the chandeliers or anything like that because we don't have any. Also, I'm just joking, just, you know. Check, check, check. We're going to go through the song, but let's do the verse again and into the chorus one more time, okay? So let's start out, what a fellowship. Okay. What a fellowship, what a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arms. What a blessedness, what a peace is mine, leaning on the everlasting arms. Sing, I'm leaning, leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. I'm leaning, leaning on the everlasting arms. Beautiful. All right, sounds like we're on. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do something, and it might be kind of crazy. I don't know if we do that here, but we're going to clap on beat, and it's going to be really freaky. But it's fun. This song is really fun, especially if you get a nice beat going and a nice clap. So we have some percussion with us, and Zara's going to play piano. This is my brother Dustin. I don't know if everybody knows we're related. And we're going to go ahead and play the song all the way through, okay? 1, 2, 1, 2. What a fellowship. What a fellowship. What a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arms. What a blessedness, what a peace is mine, leaning on the everlasting arms. Sing, I'm leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. I'm leaning, leaning on the everlasting arms. Good. Sing, oh, how sweet to walk. Oh, how sweet to walk in this way, leaning on the everlasting arms. Oh, how bright the path grows from day to day, leaning on the everlasting arms. Sing the chorus. I'm leaning.
Okay, for those in the South group, what'd you turn me off for? Why'd you turn me off? Like you guys in the back, son. 2:30, Rest Home TNRC for singing, Bible study, and pumpkin pie today. So, yeah, if you go, you eat. That's the way it happens. With whipping cream and ice cream, for those who like that. So let me pray for us, and we'll continue on with our day. Father, thank you for this time. Thank you for everyone that was here. We pray that we would take all that transpired today and allow us to affect how we live our lives for you. We pray all these things in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.